So I have my hopes and I have my fears about this. My hopes is that CIG will start to use modularity as a means to bring up older ships to new standards or to new horizons. So, for instance, a lot of ships are built with like kind of, let's look at the Spirit, which isn't older, but it's a good kind of similar. Where like if you
How
look
did I
at the
forget
Spirit,
that name? Spirit series.
yeah, it's very serious. The front of the Spirit is the same, I think, for all of them. For the C1, the A1, and the E1, they're all the same. The very front cockpit area. It's the back area that changes, and I think the E1 has the biggest change because the A1 is just bombs. It's just the cargo bay with bombs, and then you have the cargo bay. So in theory, you could plop that cargo bay out and then replace it with something that's exactly the same cargo bay with some other little doodads added. It wouldn't be as much work because you already have that kind of little Lego piece built to just kind of modify the insides. Now, I'm sure there's still clipping and other problems that can happen and other weird bugs that can happen from that. But that feels like a very simple solution to the problem rather than having to like build a bespoke new ship using the same thing. So I could see something like the Avenger, which already has 3 different versions of its or like multiple versions, but it's got the Titan, the Stalker, and the Warlock are all like effectively just take the backside out and replace it with something else. I could see the Avenger starting to get new love in life. I could see ships like the
Cutlass.
Yeah, the Cutlass. Cutlass could start getting modularity as well, rather than just being the bespoke versions. The Reliant, the Mustang, the
100,
possibly even the 100. Yeah. The 100 is a little different because I think a lot of the interior is the same. I don't know how you'd modify the interior much from the 100.
Yeah,
maybe hard points, but not points.
Yeah. I was just trying to say else. Like the Freelancer, those sorts of things. Like I could see a modular for the Freelancer base that's just swaps out the cargo for seats.
How far does that go though? Because like the Freelancer, it's like different thrusters. So like, are you starting to?
Well, I mean, like you wouldn't have to because it's just the interior would be these modules. So like the difference between a cargo version of the Freelancer and like the a regular cargo version of the Freelancer and like changing that out with seats in the back probably isn't that much of a change. And it's a nice swap so that CIG doesn't have to build a bespoke version of a transport Freelancer unless they want to. But it gives them options to update the older ships a little bit, like with some new touches to them.
Based on that, would you think then that they're gonna start releasing a lot less variants?
Yeah, I think they'll instead of having variants in the sense of like what we have, just the same ship but it's slightly different. I think we'll see a base ship with some modules attached to it, and then like a special ship. Like the E1 is the special version of the Spirit. With is it the Marky Mark that's the special version of or is it the cargo version that's the special version of the Zeus? There's like one that's
cargo one is drastically different, but they all are a little bit different on the inside.
Yeah,
but I mean, what you're thinking of is options. Basically, what you're talking about is similar to. It's a different game series, but the Gradius series, where you collect different parts and upgrade the tree of power-ups to get different weapons and loadouts.
Yeah.
Basically, it's similar to that. What you upgrade to is based on your choices, so it's very similar.
And
trying to make it analogy.
Yeah. Well, Chad is also bringing up that, and now that I'm thinking about it, engines. Engines could be something that's modular as well, because CIG has already showed off that they can do that with the unique shipjacker ships in Squadron that they showed off. The ones that are just basically engines
the weird Cutlass that has stuff cut off on it. The weird Mustang.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that M50 though, that was on the roadmap.
That was the major modularity.
Yeah.
So I can see some aspects of it becoming like them engines, I could see the engine stuff being 100% the main draw. Like they'll just start swapping out engines to unique engine versions. So you
Stealth
you have-
engines, low.
yeah, which would be completely different sizes or different looks to them, so you can swap them out on the fly.
VTOLs.
Yeah, VTOL, adding more VTOLs, swapping out the maneuvering thrusters to other different versions of maneuvering thrusters because they can have that system.
Advocacy spec.
Man, that would be a lot. That's
Yeah.
getting it in like ship customization territory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I can see the same system being working. Now, the problem I have is that I can also see CIG abusing the system
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of pressure for CIG to do like better versions of ships that have already passed. So, like the Constellation's a great example. I can see CIG, instead of doing a constellation, like a new constellation, like the F7C Mark II we have, instead of doing a new version of the Mark 8 of the constellation or whatever it is, what they'll do is they'll say the 2955 constellation, and all it is just a module that swaps out the interior for a new interior.
Oh my god.
So
I mean, like I was
No.
joking about that when CIG released the Hornet Mark II, right?
yeah.
I was like, okay, so when's the Hornet Mark V coming out? That's going to be even better than the Mark II, right?
Yeah.
They're just going to keep selling the same ship over and over again. That's just going to be better than the last ship we
See,
bought.
I'm really hoping that, because that was always true for the Hornet, right?
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that they don't start actually just applying that to other ships.
I don't think they will, but I could see something like the Connie Mark whatever being just in a module update that you can get for the change out the interior of a ship, so that they can keep selling the Connie every year. And because it's a module, it's separate cache, so you can't get to CCU it, so you can't do your crazy CCU chains.
Yep.
You have to buy it separately and then install it. So CIG
Keep
can
the
make
old
more
one
money.
looking good.
Well, that's why
Some people like the old
CIG
one.
did the F8 the way they did with the gold ticket event. That way you couldn't
Yeah.
get CCUs to it.
Yeah.
Same with like the F7A Mark II. Like that's why they did, so you couldn't CCU chain to it. You had to buy, you had to own, you had to CCU chain to the Mark II, and then you had to do the game event to get to the Mark II FA.
Oh,
Oh my
God.
God.
Someone
So-
in chat brought up a Javelin Mark II. Oh.
But I mean, Delight's got this. What I'm saying is that like that instead of selling you the Mark III, they'll just sell you a module that you can upgrade.
Yeah,
And part
I
of
get
that, and my problem with that is that it's just EA-ifying. It's FIFA-ifying Star Citizen.
Yeah.
You want to get the newest skin, the
Yeah.
newest good looking, the one that has the latest updates. You gotta update it, so you gotta pay that $80 to get the Connie, yearly Connie upgrade.
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense. No, there should be at most there should be the original one that came out. Like obviously the Constellation is an old ship, right?
Yes.
You could sell an MK2, right? You could say there's a Mark II for it, but you need to keep that old one good, right? Because people should be looking at it as a different ship. It's got a different style. It came from a different time of RSI. It's unique. It shouldn't just be replaced.
Yeah. No, I get that, and that's my fear. I don't want this to happen, but I can see this happening.
Don't make it happen, Paul.
I'm not trying to will this into existence. I'm trying to warn people. I'm trying. This isn't.
They told me it's people like you. You changed the game.
There is that also that what's the old meme about the sci-fi writer who's like the torment, and finally people will know not to invent the torment nexus. In my book, do not invent the torment nexus.
Torment Nexus. It's like there's a tweet that's like, we've invented the Torment Nexus.
From the book, do not invent the torment nexus. So I could do that, but And I could also see people doing that because it's a way of CIG collecting new money and giving people an option to upgrade rather than having to stick around, and then they can constantly update it over time. But I feel that's very scummy. I feel like that's because those sorts of things probably wouldn't be available for 6 months in game until after the fact, that kind of stuff. So, yeah. So, I'm torn about it myself.
Yeah. There's a lot of bad ways modularity can go.
I'd like to thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed the video, think about tapping the like button, subscribing for more content, and hitting the bell icon to be notified when these release. I'd also like to thank those on screen now for supporting the channel financially. If you want to throw in a few credits, think about becoming a member on YouTube. And if you want a bit more for your contribution, join the Ko-fi or Patreon. Patreons and Ko-fi members get early, ad-free access to all videos, including exclusive early access to my long-running Complete History of Star Citizen lore series. Check those out now in the top right if you want to know what you're getting. Now, I want to hear your thoughts on this video and on any other lore topics in the comments below. And as always, remember, Ex Historia ad Astra.